would kill the kid instantly, that because she wouldn't let him out of her sight, because that would have been par for the course. Because Garrett's brother Tom wanted to succeed to the chieftaincy, to the overlordship. But from a mother's point of view, for her to be able to make that decision to say, no, I want you, the Queen, to take charge of him. And she did. And she gave him to, I think it was the Duke of Leicester, one of the major houses anyway. And the kid did survive. But they came back to Dublin. And very quickly, I'll run this right through. They came back to Dublin, and they now had a pardon from the Queen. But John Perrot, who by the way was universally believed to be, and probably was, the illegitimate son of Henry VIII, which means that he would be the half-brother of Elizabeth herself, and looked exactly like Henry VIII. He was corpulent, and in many ways had a lot of his attributes. Fascinating. One of my favourite English personalities was Henry Perrot. Very interesting guy. Anyway, he was in charge in Ireland, and he said, hell no, I'm not letting these people out of Dublin. I'm just not letting them out of there. So he actually imprisoned them in Dublin Castle against the Queen's wishes. But he was that kind of guy. And also, he probably knew something that nobody else knew. He often did that. He pretty well did what he pleased. Because I suspect he wouldn't be a bit shy in telling Elizabeth, you're just the same as I am, but we're out of the same stock. So anyway, he was imprisoned in Dublin for quite some time afterwards. And Eleanor not escaped, but negotiated her passage down to Tipperary to Kiltynan and was reunited with her daughters. And there was wonderful rejoicing, and the chieftains and so on. Now she was now trying to gain the legal release of Garrett, her husband, which she never succeeded in doing. But he hightailed it out of there, and it's one of the great stories. It's right up there with Red Hugh O'Donnell escape out of Dublin Castle. Some of the great Irish stories or escapes from Dublin. He was allowed to go hunting and to go out because these were aristocrats. He was allowed to go out on parole on condition that he would come back. And so they went out to, I think it was Gormanstown. I'm going by memory here for most of this. I think it was Gormanstown. And he and one of his close, associates, horsemen, one of his closest aides, took off. Now they were given free passage through Kildare and most of the, because they were all kinsmen, and actually got down to Desmond and so on. And Margaret, I'm going to end with this because where they actually congregated and where he came and where the great reunification, if you like, after 6 years of the great Earl of Desmond with his people from all of that was in Lochgur. You remember that? Yes. We went to Lochgur, and it's a magical place in many, many ways. And they came in from everywhere. And it was like one of these moments that you would give anything to have been there, where all the old war cries, went up, Desmond the Boo, although it wasn't Desmond that they would say, and so on. I mean, they just went wild. And those things were incredibly powerful because they were so incredibly uplifting. And apparently Eleanor literally almost died. Now she'd be sitting there, and her husband was actually enjoying it because they both, by the way, ceremoniously discarded all the old English clothing and ceremoniously put on Gaelic clothing. So it was incredibly powerful in that it was a reawakening and a restatement. We got our Earl back. It was like when Richard the Lionheart came back to England. And I'm going to end at that, but I have known about that for many years, and Lochgur is a magical place, and probably always was. And again, it's interesting that they went there and that all the gathering of all the tribes came to that holy place. And if you ever go to Ireland, go to Lough Gur, and you don't need any introductions. You can feel it, you can see it, you can feel it. This place has been a gathering place for, a holy place, if you like, for millennia, for thousands of years. You can just feel it with the way that the whole thing is in a bowl and the lake, and it's just so incredibly beautiful. And just the calm, the quietness, you can just sense it. Anyway, that was one of the greatest moments in Irish history. And then, unfortunately, the battles really got going. In the meantime, everything that we talked about before was going on in Northern Ireland. And there was a real danger, from the English point of view at that time, that they would come together and chase the English out of Ireland forever. And with that, we shall break for tea. Irish tea.